What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel with me, Clem Boogie. We've reached championship week, conference championship week. A lot of unexpected teams, a lot of unexpected matchups for this weekend on par. But you know how I give it up on this channel. 4 picks, 1 upset alert. Let's make some money, people. First game up, we have the LSU Tigers versus Georgia Bulldogs. I'm not going to belabor this. Georgia is going to stomp, roll, kick, scratch, dominate the LSU Tigers on both sides of the ball. LSU, frankly, is just not physical enough, though they've had a surprising season under new head coach Brian Kelly, who brought his winning ways from Notre Dame. But until he gets his guys in, I don't really foresee this being much of a championship game. I don't see it being much of a challenge for Georgia, who seemingly coasted during the season. But after all, you only can play who they put in front of you. And Georgia has succeeded in each of those times this past football season. But with that being said, I'm going with Georgia. I believe they're giving 17.5 points. Believe it, book it. Georgia will be covering it with a comfortable spread and covering all game. No problem, no trouble, no nothing. Georgia is the pick. Next game up is for the ACC title, featuring the Clemson Tigers versus the UNC Tar Heels. Ladies and gentlemen, defense in this game will be an aberration. I know. These teams have been playing lackluster football, especially these last couple weeks. Winning and losing, and it's one of those situations where you have to kind of pray the team that you're hoping for performs the way that you're betting on. I say that because both teams are capable of putting points up, but also both teams are capable of coming out like someone had a keg party. So with that being said, it is Friday night. Saturday night is when the game is. So, with all the fanfare, and I'm assuming that the game will be in a neutral site. So with all things being considered, all things being said, let's pray that these young men are placed on curfew and playing tip-top football in top performance. And with that, I'm going with the over, which sits at, I believe, 63.5, 64 points. Either way, like I said to you earlier in this piece, defense will be merely an admiration. The guys will be over there. But as far as providing resistance and stopping anybody, nah. Let's not kid ourselves. My pick is the over at 64. Next game up is for the Big Ten Championship. Michigan versus Purdue Boilermakers. Michigan played a very stingy, effective defense and well-oiled offense when it came to playing their rivals in Ohio State. They beat them up in their own backyard. How is that? I don't know. Jim Harbaugh imposed his imprint all over this game. He actually let some of the reins off of his quarterback and let him fling the ball all over the yard. There were a bunch of gash and dash plays. They basically broke the Buckeye spirit, and they came out with a double-digit victory. Mind you, they were in Ohio State. The biggest question was, who has Michigan played up until that point? Well, they showed them, they shut them up, and they punched them dead in the mouth. With that being said, here they are, undefeated and clocked into the Big Ten championship game. On the other hand, they're playing the Boilermakers, a senior-led team. They know how to move the football. They have their own assortment of skilled players that can give Michigan some problems. And one key element missing for the Michigan Wolverines is their running back. He was a Heisman candidate before going down with an injury. I think he's having some kind of surgery, so prayers out to him. But with that being said, they do have suitable backups, and they have people next man up mentality where they're able to gash and dash plays. But like I said, Boilermakers from Purdue seem to have that backbone. They're senior led. They have leaders on that team. You're not going to be able to impose your will and just push them around. Should be a hard fought game. However, after a emotional game over at Ohio State from last week, I don't see the Michigan Wolverines covering. I didn't say they're going to lose. I just don't see them covering. And the game, yes, will be much closer than what people anticipate. Because right now, they have Michigan giving 16 and a half points. Entirely too much. Yeah, they're riding high, they're feeling good, and that is the biggest recipe for disaster, if anything. So I'm going with the Purdue Boilermakers getting the points at 16 and a half, and that's my pick. Next game up are the USC Trojans versus the Utah Utes. Now, earlier in the season, Utah basically played these guys to a standstill, eventually beating them by one single point. You know how much it hurts to lose by one single point? Most people who've ever played sports rather get blown out or just forfeited the game altogether. But USC Trojans lost by one stinking point. Nonetheless, that has been their only their downfall this season. They've lost one game. They are led by Lincoln Riley, the mastermind coach with all the offensive tools, tricks, and what have you. He is the genius. And he has his quarterback that he brought all the way with him from Oklahoma, Caleb Williams, who has proven and shown that he is Heisman worthy. You can judge by all the posing and all the laughing and joking he did last game from last week. He really put his imprint all over the game. He is a great player, great young talent. The question is, will he return or will he just offset and go to the NFL? He definitely has the talent for it. But in all things, there's nothing 1 year back at school can help to sharpen up those tools. But on the other side, Utah, they're no slouches. Like I said, they've beaten this same USC team. It's not going to be an easy breezy game. I don't think it's going to be a fast car, sexy game at all. I think this game will be won in the trenches. I don't know. I know Utah is much more physical than USC, but I'm not going to discourage that payback factor. Listen, people, when someone does something to you, what do you want to do? You want to get even. So with that being said, I'm looking for USC to get even, being and avenging that early season loss that they suffered by the hands of Utah. So I'm going with USC. I believe they're giving 2.5, 3 points. Book it. USC is my pick. Now, my upset alert comes by way of the Big 12 championship game. Now you have TCU Horned Frogs versus Kansas State Wildcats. Now let's break this down. TCU, no one expected this of this team. If you did, you're lying. Kansas State, they've had their trials and tribulations. They are the epitome of a bell curve, and it keeps flowing. They go up, then they come right back down. Either or, both these teams are well-functioned teams. Defense is the story with both these teams, more so on the Kansas State side. They like to just muck it up. And by what I'm saying, they're going to try to make it as ugly as possible, be very physical with the receivers, and just snuff up the offensive box. But, hey, you have a Heisman candidate in this game, Max Duggan, quarterback of the TCU Horned Frogs. He's special. He just knows how to make plays week after week after week. And you can just keep repeating it week after week after week. He's special. He has arm talent, and he's mobile. He can move. He's not a sitting target. He's not a sitting duck. And he's also courageous, not afraid to look down the barrel and shoot that ball right out when needed. He can throw it long, he can throw it medium, and he can throw the check down. He is smart. He's very cerebral when he's on that field. On the other side, Kansas State, they play a running offense, very heavy run offense. They pass when they need to, very opportunistic when it comes to it. But with that being said, you got to provide some balance. Like I said, they're bookmakers that are not, for whatever reason, all season, haven't really believed in TCU. And this could be the game that really shows if TCU really belongs. Kind of reminiscent of, Cincinnati from last season. So, I don't know. They might win, but what I'm looking at, I don't really see it. I look for Kansas State to impose their will and make that many more plays and just muck it up and make many more, help make mistakes for TCU. TCU will be, not sharp on their game. At least that's what I'm hoping, because I'm picking Kansas State to upset TCU. And also that will probably throw a monkey wrench into the college football framework. the playoff framework, because now that kind of gives Alabama, a two-loss team, some hope, which is unheard of, but it's happened. Stranger things have happened, so let's see what happens. But like I said, I'm going with TCU, and that's my pick. Well, there you have it. You have 4 picks, 1 upset alert. We are winding down as we get into all these assortments of championship games from, sponsors that you've eaten at fast food or Staples, you name it. Some of these places I've never even heard of in my life, but that's next week. But as far as it pertains to this week's championship week, conference championship week, it's going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you about positioning. It will definitely mark up and put some clarity, at least we hope, as to who's going to be the Final Four for the championship, the NCAA championship for FBS. So with that being said, I am Clem Boogie. I will see you here next week. We will grind these things out. We'll talk it out. Comment. I invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. Trust me, people, I know what I'm talking about. But if you subscribe and you hit me up, guess what? I'm going to respond. Any questions that you have or any criticisms that you have, I'm not above it. I'm not far from approach. Bring it. I accept it. So next time, it's with me, Clem Boogie.